everyone, and welcome or welcome back to the channel. You are watching volume, I think this is 4 of the Scrappy Blanket Diaries. My name is Jen. I am ndjen04 on Instagram, Ravelry, Blue Sky, all the places. So thank you for clicking through, taking the time to join me as I have been journaling my progress as I try to finish up some of my Scrappy Blanket whips. This is going to be a little bit of a different update this week. I just posted last week's video on Friday, actually, where I kind of did a vlog style where I took you along for just about a week or so in a week in the life, if you will, as I was making progress on my daughter's Scrappy blanket. So that went up last week, but I did get a question in the comments asking if I could show how I attach the squares to the blanket. And while I've been linking the tutorials that I've been following in the description box below, I thought, well, let me take some time to actually take a video. And so I did do that last week, which I will share here in a moment. So that will be kind of the crux of this particular video. But since it is Monday, it is the 27th of January, I thought I would give a little bit of a progress update. So for those who are new, or maybe this is the first video you're clicking through, I'm working on a lot of different Scrappy Blanket projects, but one I am focusing on really kind of giving all of my attention to right now is a granny square, a solid granny square Scrappy blanket that I am making for one of my twin daughters. And I am doing a 3-round solid granny square in the middle, and then I am attaching join as you go with different contrast yarns for each row. I am trying to get this finished in time for the Downseller Studio pigskin party, which wraps up 2 weeks from today, which that's kind of a big, it is a big goal, but where I am, and I'm about to give you a progress update, I'm still very confident, right? I'm still very confident that I can get to the finish line, or at least very, very close to the finish line by the end of the pigskin party. And even if I don't finish it, right, the end goal is really to get this blanket done. And, you know, even if it just takes a few extra days after that, all good things. I'm just very grateful to continue this momentum as much as I can to keep going. So the blanket itself is going to be 14 squares across and 21 rows long for a grand total, my third graders, and they're learning their multiplication, for a grand total of 294 squares. So as of this morning, because I do my little, I keep track as I go throughout the week, but I actually give myself the total on Monday mornings. So I have a total of 214 squares crocheted, and I have 14 rows attached. So that's 196 squares of the 294 attached. So I am 2/3 of the way there because I've got 7 more of the 21 rows left to go. And I will give that little asterisk like I've been doing every week. This last row is the squares are attached, but I still have to go back and do kind of the in-between connecting sections, but they are attached to the blanket, so I am calling them attached. So I have 80 squares left to go to crochet and 7 more rows to attach. Again, 2 weeks left till the end of the pigskin party, to get those internet points. But I feel like I'm in a good place. I think even though I have, technically 40 squares this week, 40 squares next week, with all of the attaching, and also I've got to play a little bit of catch up on weaving in my ends. I think I'm going to try for at least 50 squares this week so that I have more time next week for attaching and weaving in ends, if that makes sense, right? I want to get ahead on the squares, still keeping up. So as I get 14, I do have Aurora go and tell me what order she wants them in, so that they're ready to go. So I'll still mix in the attaching in there, but I really, really want to focus on getting ahead on the squares so I can spend more time toward the end of next week, doing more of the attaching and the finishing and whatnot. I probably will not be putting another border around this blanket. I think it's just going to stay how it is with the different joining, right? So this is row 1, row 2. See, I'm using a different contrast color for each one, which I did go through last week's episode and kind of detail that. But yeah, I feel like I'm in a good place as far as that goes. Yeah, with just about 2 weeks left. I do need to probably sit down and organize the yarn again. I do this every so often just to kind of make sure I am, I'm repeating colors, and that's fine. Again, 294 squares, and I've got a lot of minis from countdown calendars and minis I've collected over the years. Plus I've opened a few full skeins of DK weight yarn to add to the blanket as well. Just really fun colorways that I wanted to make sure I was incorporating, that I have ideas for as far as other projects are concerned. So I was going to break into those skeins anyway. But I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot. So actually, before, I was going to say, without further ado, I'll cut over to that video of my attaching my squares. But before I do that, I am wearing a few hand knits here, a couple hand knits here. So another Musselburgh hat. I think that was a theme last week. A Musselburgh hat and a cowl, right? So this is another one. This is out of Legacy Fiber Arts. I think it's their Cozy Toes base, and it is in the Hocus Pocus colorway. And I just love the Musselburgh hat is great. It showcases the yarn really well. I've done it in self-striping. I've done it in speckled. I've done it. Aurora is actually kind of pooled in a really fun way. I mean, it's just a fun way to play with yarn and to get a really functional piece. And then this is the exoskeleton cowl. It is a pattern by Shayna Cohen, who is Shayna Lines Designs. I think this one comes in 2 different sizes, and I think this is the biggest size. I used a DK weight yarn for this main color, which I think is what the pattern calls for. This is some Magpie Fibers. I think it was one of their Fiber Society colors. I was part of that for a little bit a while back. And then I do know the pattern calls for using mohair in these kind of little sections here that create kind of that exoskeleton look. I did start this project using the mohair, but I just I didn't enjoy working with it, especially held by its, using it by itself. I have never tried mohair held double with another yarn. Maybe I'll try that someday. And I'm also told that if I don't like mohair, Surrey alpaca might be a good alternative if I'm into fuzzy. I want to try, getting into fuzzy yarns, but instead I used this deconstructed fade sock yarn from Shirley Bryan Yarn Company. It comes in 2 50-gram skeins in these really long color repeats. As you can see, it goes from purple to pink to these gold and yellow to green to blue. And I had actually used the other 50-gram skein for Aurora's Like Candy cowl. That was the cowl that I couldn't remember the name as I was recording, but I did eventually look it up and put it on the screen last week. So I had used the other 50-gram for Aurora's Like Candy cowl. And what's great about it, right, is this long color change yarn. You don't really have to fuss with it. It's wonderful. And so it was just kind of perfect for this particular pattern. And I love this cowl. It does get quite a bit of use. And yeah, it was what I grabbed this morning for the bus stop. Not quite as cold this week as it was last week, but still cold enough that I needed to be bundled up. And I will probably continue to wear this throughout the rest of the day. So with that, I will say farewell here, and I will add the video that I recorded last week of my attaching the squares here. Again, thank you again from the bottom of my heart for all of the likes, the subscribes, the shares, all the things. It really, I'll say it every week, right? I'm really appreciative of your taking the time to check out the channel, to watch, to follow along, and all of that. I hope your crafting is treating you well, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye. Okay, I have received a few questions or comments asking if I could show how I am joining squares. This is Aurora's Scrappy blanket that I am working a 3-round solid granny square, and then I'm using a continuous join as you go method with a different yarn for each row. So each row is 14 squares wide, and I am using a different contrast yarn for each row. So this is my contrast yarn that I'm about ready to use to join. I have my squares ready to go. I shared in the last video that I've been stacking these kind of just on a crochet hook in the order that I'm going to attach them. Now, I will preface this video by saying I don't have the greatest setup for doing a tutorial. You know, this is not necessarily meant to be a full tutorial. I will link the video that I use that is much clearer, where it's using solid color yarn and the creator is going more slowly, and you know, I will certainly stop and share what I'm doing along the way for sure. But disclaimer that it is not a fancy professional type tutorial. Of course, as I was chatting there, I realized I didn't have my actual crochet hook that I am getting ready to use. So I guess a little bit of background, if you've been following around in the Scrappy Blanket Diaries, I am crocheting, like I mentioned, just using a solid granny square construction, using DK weight yarn. I am using a US, I don't know if that's a focus, I can't really see. It's a USG 6 4.0 millimeter needle. Again, using various scrap yarns, mini skeins, leftovers, all sorts of beautiful DK weight yarns that I have, and then a contrast yarn for joining. So the way that I start joining my squares is I have my joining yarn here, and I'm going to grab the first square. Please forgive all the ends. I kind of do them in batches. I will say I try to find a corner that's not the corner where I joined the yarn, at least for this joining round. And so what I'm going to be doing is joining squares just along this, well, I guess depending on how you're looking at it, this edge of the square, and I'm going to be joining it to this edge of the row above. So what I do, and yes, it's not Christmas, but I am still wearing my Christmas wristband for my watch. Again, not a professional tutorial. You will get my my wonderful train of thought. So what I will be doing is joining. Also, I will note I am a self-taught crocheter who doesn't necessarily have probably the best form, the best techniques. Let's see if I can get this in the screen here. Also, I usually do this on my lap as opposed to on my kitchen island here. So what I'm going to do is just I'm just going to do a slip stitch into this corner of the row before. Let me just scoot this around a little bit. I am going to, now see, this is where I'm just going to go right into a double crochet. See, I had to pause and think about what I am doing for this. So I'm going to do a double crochet into this corner. Okay, so I've got my double crochet. I'm going to move this over to this side. That'll be easier. Oh, grab my end here. Now, here's where the joining techniques come technique comes in. So I've got my first double crochet in this corner here. I'm going to slip this loop onto my finger, and then I'm going to attach it to this double crochet here in the corner. So I'm going to stick my crochet hook through there, pull up this loop through there. Now I'm not going to slip stitch or chain or anything here. And then I'm going to do my next double crochet into the corner. I'm going to grab this again, pull it through to attach it to that double crochet. So what I did here is I am creating, so in each corner space, let me back up a bit here. Each corner space is a double crochet, a chain two, and then a double crochet. This is the second pair of double crochets in the corner. I will do my chain two and my other two double crochets when I come back around this side at the end. So if to help you picture this, right, these are the two double crochets that'll be along this edge of the square, if that makes sense. So then I'm going to continue to double crochet. Now I'm going to start double crocheting into my double crochets here on this square, and then I'm going to attach it again into the double crochet on the row above. Just pull that loop through, double crochet into the next one, take the loop off, go into that double crochet, and I am basically just attaching the double crochets along this edge to the double crochets along this edge here, right? So now I've got it attached. I'm going to do my next double crochet, attach it to the next one. Oops, it'd help if I, see, I didn't check to see if I was in frame. Double crochet into this one. And then pull it to attach it to the row. Double crochet, attach it to the other square. Double crochet, and then I am, oops, sorry, I know it's probably not focusing very well. Let's see if I can get it to lock my focus. There we go. And then we're gonna, oops. And then we're gonna just keep going along this edge until we get to the corner, and then I'll show you what I do for the corner. So double crochet, attach it here, and I should say I am based in the US, so I'm using US crochet terms. So double crochet, and then attaching, whoops, into the row above. I'm just going to keep moving along here. Double crochet, attach to the row above. Now, I've made my way, show it this way, I've made my way across this edge here, and now I'm about to do the corner. So as I mentioned earlier, my corner is 2 double crochets and, oh, sorry, the tripod moved on me. 2 double crochets, chain 2, and then if I was going to go back up this way, right, 2 double crochets. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I am attaching the corners here. So I'm going to do my 2 double crochets like normal, attach them to the row above, double crochet, attach to the row above, into that last double crochet. What I usually do here is I count to make sure I should have 15, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15 double crochets along this edge, and I have matched up all of the double crochets in the row above. Now it's time to connect the corners. And what I am doing for connecting the corners is on these interior rows here. Now, not on the edge of the blanket. On the edge, I do something different, but on these internal sections, I am connecting corners diagonally. So here's the chain 2 space for this yellow squares border. Here's the chain 2 space for this kind of variegated pinky red border, or red square border. So I'm going to connect this corner here to here. I'm not going to connect anything into this chain 2 space. That'll be for this square here, which I will show you. So I'm going to grab my next square to get that ready. But first, I'm going to chain one. I like to pull that loop a little bit tighter. Oops, let me get that. I'm going to chain 1 for my corner. And now my second chain in the corner is where I'm going to attach it here. So I am going to take it off my loop here. Apologize for the camera moving here. I'm going to pull that loop through, and then I'm going to do a chain stitch, right? So there's my chain 2. Now, if I was going back around this square, I'd go up this way, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start attaching my next square and attach it to this edge here. So I'm going to start my double crochet into the corner here. I'm going to double crochet. Okay. And then I'm going to start attaching this square to this one here. So again, I'm going to find that first double crochet on that edge, pull it through, double crochet, oops, come on. And then we're just going to continue attaching this edge, right? Attach it. Now I'm going to go into this first double crochet on this row because these 2 were part of my corner. And then I'm just going to go across the row like I did on that first square. And I'll get to the end of that row and I'll show you that corner bit one more time. Alrighty, so now I'm at the corner and I should have 13, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 double crochets here, and I need 2 more into this corner. So I am going to try to get my hook untangled there. I'm going to go into this row here. I'm going to do my first double crochet of the corner, attach it in, second double crochet of the corner, and attach it in. And I'm just going to bring that loop up so I can stop and talk about it a little bit here. Now again, we've got our corner. Here's our corner. Let's use the crochet hook here. Here's the corner of this square, but I'm going to, again, attach diagonally. So I'm going to attach here. Let me grab my, oops, sorry, I keep bumping into the my little tripod setup here. Like I said, this is the first time I'm trying to set up for something like this. So thank you for bearing with me. So I'm going to do my chain 1. And then I'm going to come into this corner. Oops. I'm going to do my chain 2. And that's where I'm going to start double crocheting into this next, oops, this next square. So that's my first double crochet for the corner of this one. Oops. And I'm going to come in here, pull that loop through my second double crochet of the corner, attach it to this one here, and then you're going to start double crocheting into each double crochet and then attaching it into the row above. So what you end up with, let me just get some extra yarn here so I'm not pulling these stitches out, is this row. I'm going to keep working across, and then you end up with these squares. So all 14 squares will be attached on this, you know, along this edge. And then once I get to the end, I'll come back around and continue crocheting around each of the squares. So it would take me a very long time to do this. Plus I'm at kind of a weird angle. This is much easier for me if I do this on my lap. But as I get toward the end, I'll come back and film what that looks like. So again, magic of video editing. You'll see that in a couple seconds. For me, could be later today, could be tomorrow. Who knows? Okay, so it is a few hours later. I am at my last square to attach for this row. So where I left you earlier, I was all the way back here, and I've attached all these squares. You can see them here just hanging off by that top edge. And now I'm at the last one here. So I have done my 2 double crochet, I did my chain 1, and then I did my chain to attach to the diagonal corner here, like I have been doing. And now I am just going to go ahead, kind of get this situated, and attach this last square here. So I'm going to do my double crochet, and then I'm going to crochet into, or just attach it here, tack it into that double crochet. My other double crochet for the corner, attach it in here, etc., etc. So I will, through the magic of some video editing, I'll do a few more stitches just so you can see it here. Double crochet. I'm taking my hook, I'm going into the double crochet for the row above, grabbing that loop, pulling it through. Again, not doing any kind of slip stitching or chaining here. I go right into my double crochet into this square here. Again, pulling through here, like, oops, help if I grab the whole strand of yarn here. So let's try that again. We're gonna go in here, pull it through, and then go into that double crochet there. I'll do it one more time, and then I'll, you know, do that fancy speeding up here. We're gonna pull it through that loop on the double crochet from the row above. Go ahead and do your double crochet. So I will finish up this little bit here, and I will be back when I am at the corner. Okay, so I have attached this double crochet here. So now you see I'm at the corner space for the square. I am attaching, and I'm also at the corner double crochets here. So I'm going to do those 2 double crochets. Do 1, attach it here. I'm going to do another one. Attach it here. Oh, I want to attach it into, so see I'm going into this double crochet, not into the chain space, but into the double crochet itself, and attach it here. Now, let's pause for a minute here. Now there's not going to be a square up here to attach diagonal because I am at the edge. So when I'm at the edge, I am actually attaching the corners. So I'm going to do my chain 1, and then I'm going to go into this corner here, pull the loop through, and do my second chain to create that chain 2 space for this corner here. And then I'm going to do my, 2 double crochets into this corner space. Okay, let me pull this out so you can see. So now I'm working this edge here, which is the edge of my blanket. So anytime I'm at the edge of the blanket, at the outside edge here, I am attaching the corners together, right? Because there's not a diagonal corner, whereas these inner corners, I'm attaching diagonally. So what I'm going to do is crochet across here, do my corner and crochet across here, and then I'll show you what we do down here. So again, this is just my regular double crochets along this edge, just as if I was working any other edge of this solid granny square. So I'm just crocheting. Okay, so what I've done, I'm just going to keep it oriented this way for a bit, just so you could see where we are. So this is the row I've attached. Here's that edge square that I was just working on. So I showed you attaching this corner, and then what I did kind of off camera, I did this edge and then this edge, and now I've got this one here to go, and here's where we're going to start filling in this part here. So what I am going to do is I am going to flip this blanket around just so that it's a little bit easier to work. So I just move that corner around this way. Let me just scoot my camera a little bit here. All right, so I have done, I've tangled myself up in here. Okay, so I've done my 2 double crochets into this corner. I'm going to chain 2, and actually this particular row is just going to be like any other regular row. So I'm going to get that worked up, and then I'll come back when I will show you what I'm going to do in the corner here. Okay, so I have crocheted across this edge here, and I'm about to hit the corner. So I've done all my double crochets into the row below, and now I'm about to work my corner here. So I am going to do 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets. Okay, now if you remember when we were, again, attaching this row, so this is going to be upside down from where we were before, we were connecting diagonal corners. So what I'm going to be doing is connecting this corner here with this corner here on the diagonal, right? So I've got my 2 double crochets. Let's make sure I'm actually in the camera here. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to come in here into this diagonal square into the chain 2 space from that corner here. So actually, let me come over to the side because I'm trying to be over the camera here. So I'm going to come in here like so. I'm going to grab my chain 1 and I'm going to chain 2. Okay, let me take my hook out here so I can just kind of show you where I am. So, and again, I will link the tutorial that I used to learn this technique below, because again, it's set up like an actual tutorial with, you know, more solid color yarns, whereas here we're using all sorts of different yarns because it is just me and my scrappy blanket here. So what we're gonna do now, right? So on this particular square, we've got a complete edge with all the corners and everything done. Now we are going to work up this side of this square here while attaching it to this one. So we've got our corner connected, and what we're going to do is grab our yarn here. I'm going to just move that over. I am going to chain 2 into this, or not chain 2, I'm sorry, double crochet into the corner of this blue square here. So we're going to do 1 double crochet, and now I'm going to attach it to this square. So I'm going to find that first double crochet next to the corner, insert my hook in there to pull this loop through, just like we were doing before. I'm going to do my second double crochet for that corner, and then same thing. I'm going to attach to this double crochet here. And I'm going to do my double crochet, attach to this edge. Okay, double crochet, attach to this edge. Okay, and then I'm just going to keep on doing that. Grab some more yarn here. Oops, connect into here. All the way until I get to the end. And then I will show you what I do for the corners. Okay. All right, let me pause here so you can see where I am. So I've gone all the way up this edge, and I am now in the corner space. Of course, I know I mentioned earlier, the corner where I attach the end of the yarn for the square, always, you know, it's got the extra end in it, which I weave in later. You know, it's just, I don't know, it's just a little finicky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double crochet into this corner. 1, attach it here, and 2. Now I am still going to attach this double crochet to the double crochet. But because this, and it would help if I'm in the frame here. So I attached the double crochets together, and now I'm getting ready to do my chain 2 for this corner. Let me just pull this tighter here. Okay. So what I'm getting ready to do is my chain 2 to go around to do this edge. I am not going to tack that chain 2 to this chain 2 space, because if you might remember, when we're attaching the next row, we're attaching corners diagonally. So this corner for the blue square is going to be attached to whatever square gets attached here. And likewise, the square for this pink corner's edge is going to be attached to whatever square goes here, and I will deal with that in the next row. So for now, for this row, all I'm going to do is chain 2, and then I'm just going to work across this edge like I normally would. So I'm going to do my 2 double crochets into the corner, and then I'm going to start double crocheting across this row. Similarly, when I get to the other corner, I am just going to do the corner. Well, there's nothing to attach it to yet anyway, and work my way all the way back down. So this is just, you know, the regular double crochets into the edge, just like I would do any other edge. Over here. And then just, oh, again, in the frame, just like that, getting to my corner to turn around and do this edge here. Let me just take this out real quick so I can show you what we did. All right, so we are just filling in these edges between each of the squares. So I will do the same thing. I will go down this edge with the joining yarn. I will connect my corner, and then as I am coming up the edge of the green square, I'm going to connect it to the edge that I've already crocheted, or I will crochet for the blue square. And I will keep doing that all the way to the very end until I get to the very last square. Again, connecting my corners on the diagonal on the interior, and then when I get to here, I will just connect that corner into this edge space here. So I hope that was helpful. Again, not, you know, the best visual from a tutorial perspective, just because I think it's easier to see when you have clearer, you know, more solid yarns. And, you know, this is, again, just me showing you as I'm going through on my own Scrappy project. But a number of people had asked for me to show a little bit more about how I attach the squares. So I hope that was helpful, and we will talk soon. Bye-bye.